Welcome to the Honeymoon Mindset podcast. Even with kids, you can have a honeymoon mindset. We are your hosts,
Kimberly Mullen.
and James Deppa. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first podcast of 2022. This episode is going to be very near and dear to my heart because I'm divorced. I have 5 kids. My wife's divorced. She has 2 kids. And divorce affects kids. Change in a family affects kids. And how they handle it, nobody really understands. However, there's a new resource out there now. A young lady over in Switzerland has wrote a book about divorce. Here today with us is Caroline. Caroline, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Caroline Martins, as already said. I'm 13 years old, and my parents separated when I was about 6 years old, and we were all living in Portugal. And then my mom got a job offer at Switzerland, and she traveled back and forth for her job. I was living with my sister and my dad, and then a bit after, I moved with my mom and sister permanently, and it was a long time ago, so I'm still not very sure what happened. I was very young, and my dad stayed in Portugal for his job. So every year in summer and Christmas, me and my sister spend 1 to 2 weeks with him, so twice a year. And it's very hard, of course, because I really miss him, and I really love my dad, like everyone.
Right.
So I find it challenging to always leave.
I bet. So, what made you want to write this book?
I think it was the determination to help people, because it was really painful for me to go through it, especially because I felt very alone. So the thought of other people going through it as well, which I became aware of sometime after, made it very painful for me to think about. So I really, really wanted to help everyone, to know that they're not alone, that I went through it and many people go through it.
Right.
And I wanted to give little pointers on how to go through it easier, or things that you can directly go to when you feel sad or hurt, or when you just want help.
Right. So did you write the book for kids or for adults? Or both?
I wrote it mainly for teenager young kids.
Okay.
But it of course works for everyone. But my mindset was mostly on around my age and younger.
Okay. So what was the main emotion that was going through your mind, and how did you deal with that?
I think the main emotion was fear. I was afraid of not helping people through writing the book, but also in the separation, I was afraid my parents would be mad at each other and I would be in the middle. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to see my dad often. I was afraid that I would lose my connection with my dad because I haven't seen him in a long time.
Right.
A lot of fear, for sure. How I dealt with it was journaling a lot. I journaled constantly just to let all the emotions out and everything I felt. Another big thing was calling my dad every day, or as much as I could, to know that that I can talk to him, and
Mm-hmm.
even though he may be kilometers away, we can still communicate.
Right.
And also talking to my mom, she really, really helped me a lot to just see that everything's okay and she's always with me, and that he's still my dad, that I can never substitute him with someone else.
Right. Wow. So earlier as we were talking, you were talking about feeling alone through this
Yeah.
process. When you're saying alone, what do you mean by alone?
I felt that because my mom her work came with a lot of traveling. I
Mm-hmm.
felt that I never saw her because she was gone 1 week and then came back another week and then left again. So I felt that I could never speak to her, and she was working a lot, so there was never really time. And then with my sister, she studied a lot, and I just felt she had a lot of pressure on her side from school and just all of her problems. And then my dad, like, I just wanted to keep our conversations the most happy as possible, so not
Mm-hmm.
worry him.
Right.
So then I just kept on holding everything inside of me, just pushing it down, trying to forget about it, building a wall. But then, of course, the more that came in, I couldn't keep it all in. So at some point, I just exploded.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with all that anger and that stuff that you kept putting in so you didn't explode as much or as often?
When I was really little, I just didn't know. So I just kept on doing it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
To some point when I was like, well, this is not really working out for me. So I just talked to a counselor, but I'm a very closed person, or I used to be. I'm getting better. So I'd always be afraid to speak to people.
Right.
Um, so I tried to write letters to my mom because I felt that writing was easier than speaking. And then after writing the letters, we would talk. But at least it's just all out there already.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when you talk to your mom, and I suppose you talk to your dad as well, about
Mm-hmm.
what you're thinking and feeling about them divorcing and the anger you're feeling, and how did they approach you about it? How did they handle you talking about them?
They were very open and kind. They listened, which was like the best for me. I really, really was grateful for it. And they made sure that I was not feeling guilty for the divorce, like
Mm-hmm.
the reason that it happened,
Right.
which really, really was important for me because sometimes I felt that I was the one that made it happen in a way.
Right.
Um, so they just made me comforted and allowed me to speak, listen to me, and then they would sometimes give me small exercises to do to feel better, or just give me advice, or moments where we could even speak throughout the day
Mm-hmm.
and week.
Nice.
So yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, I bet. Did you ever going through this process and talking to your parents, your mom and dad, about the divorce? Did they ever say that what you're feeling is normal? Just get over it? Sort of like brush it underneath the rug, sweep it away?
No, I don't think my parents didn't do that for me. If Of course there might be parents that did that to other kids, which is not very good and comforting because it just gets piled down again. So it's not very nice to do. But my parents never did that to me, which I'm very happy for. I have amazing parents. they always came to me in a soft side and very comforting and gave me advice, which at the time I was like, this is useless. How is this going to help me? But then the more I used it was actually really smart advice.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I've only met your mom. I haven't met your dad, but your mom is very sweet. I would agree with you on that. And
Yeah.
she is very amazing. You have an amazing mom. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact. That's true.
Yeah.
So, in writing your book, what was your biggest hurdle besides writing a book? What was your biggest hurdle in trying to write this book?
I think I have this with a lot of my work. I'd love to get started with it, the idea, but then continuing it is the part where I'm like, oh, I have to write more. No, I just want it. It's the getting done where makes me. I need to put a time in my schedule to do it, or it'll take me years to get
Yeah,
done
yeah.
with.
Was there emotion that kept coming back as you're writing the book, or a feeling or a thought that kept pestering you?
Yeah. The times when I went deep into my thoughts or my family and how I felt, I often cried. I didn't show it to anybody because I felt embarrassed, but
Mm,
I cried because it was very painful and were sometimes thoughts that I still haven't gotten over with or that were still sensitive for me.
right.
So there was a lot of emotion going
No,
on writing the book.
I can't imagine the emotions that we're going through as you're writing the book. You know, I deal with this podcast, Honeymoon Mindset, every day, and or not every day, but some of the topics I talk about, and it's like, it gets me worked up. So I know you writing a
Yeah.
book and going through it has to work you up too once in a while and seeing. So how do you feel about now that you have your book done and ready to and out for circulation for people to read?
I feel very, very happy. I'm very excited to publish it, very excited to believe that I'm helping people and maybe even people coming to me or writing me comments saying you really helped me. That would definitely make my day
Awesome.
because I love to help people like my mom. So it would be awesome to just see the end result that everyone's happy or has been helped in a way, even the smallest way.
Yeah. And I know your mom's there listening to our conversation, and I can just feel her smiling and grinning from ear to ear right now. She's so happy and proud of you. I can just feel it through the airwaves. How does that make you feel?
Very happy, comforted, and accomplished.
Yes, most definitely you are. So, your book came out January 1st, correct?
Yes, it's gonna come out soon, very soon,
Yeah.
January.
So, what else can you tell us about this book? Is there something in the book that you want to share about that's really, or maybe a part that's means a lot to you?
A part that means a lot to me would be going through divorce. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote chapters, different chapters, and I think going through divorce was a part that took me a long time to write because it's also me trying to discover a way to get through it. Like just looking back at my journey and seeing what helped me. It was emotional and hard to
Mm-hmm.
find because it was where I was at or just going through. Because I started writing the book 3 years ago,
Okay.
and then it was getting very emotional for me, so I stopped.
Oh,
I
I
was
imagine.
Yeah, I was procrastinating, and then I wrote again because I had the dedication, and I just felt like doing it because I was doing it for others as well. So that was big for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an idea to also write about moving
Okay.
and how to make friends, because making friends was never really easy for me. Like I've had amazing friends and I have an amazing friend, but then there were a lot of friends that left me and all of those friend problems.
Okay. So through all the pain and emotion, it took you 3 years to write this book.
Yeah.
And I imagine you probably did some research in this book as you wrote it. What was the most
Yeah.
interesting fact as you were writing this book that came to
There
you?
were many. I think there were many interesting facts for sure. Um Maybe one interesting fact was from this book I got. I My mom bought me books to get over it and just to find knowledge on how to write my book then. And an interesting fact was that you're the only person that you have in your life, so you're doing everything for yourself, so you want to make sure you're happy, because in the end you're the only one supporting yourself. You have everyone who loves you behind you, but you can't rely on them. You only can rely on yourself to do for what you want.
Interesting. And how did that help you through this dealing with the divorce with your mom and dad?
It helped me get up and know that I want to have a really exciting, adventurous life, and I want to have the best moments with my family and my mom and my dad. And I didn't want to keep that sadness in me and that thought that they will get back together, because I knew that wasn't going to happen, but
Mm-hmm.
it's it was a dream of mine. So it really allowed me to push up and get up and do what I was happy doing
Okay.
and make the most of the time.
Good. Wonderful. So as you were talking, Caroline, I you talked about, and I know there is kids that feel angry towards their parents of what's going on. What's an advice, or how did you deal with that anger and frustration with your parents?
That's a difficult question. I I was definitely angry at my dad because he was supposed to move to Switzerland with us, but he didn't want to because his whole life was there. And I felt that his job was more important than me and my sister.
Mm.
So I had a lot of anger towards that. The way I thought of it was thinking, just asking him why exactly he didn't move, not in a way of being defensive, but just being aware of his decisions and why he made it. And due to that talk, it allowed me to be more aware of his actions, that it wasn't actually just because of his job, because he loves us. It was because he had my grandparents were living there,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't many jobs. It's hard to find jobs in Switzerland as well, and everywhere in the world.
Right.
And I had to understand that I couldn't change people. I couldn't make my dad want to move to Switzerland. So that was very helpful as well, to just speak to him no matter how scared I was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being open and honest, Caroline. I know, like you said, that was a hard question for you to answer. And I
Yeah,
thank you for being open and honest, first off, and being truthful and sharing.
of course. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. what is the most common, as you're writing the book, the most common fact that you came as you researched and wrote the book that you heard that you wrote about?
Um, Knowing that it's never your fault that the divorce happened. It's never a kid's fault. It's just the parents' choice that they don't love each other anymore. And you can never think that it's your fault because it really isn't. Your parents love you very much. And that's probably one of the main facts I found. It's also very true. There were, of course, many other facts, but that was the most significant one.
Okay. That is the most interesting or the most thought of when kids go through divorces. It's their fault, and it's never their fault. And they're not alone.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you tell to a child? Because you said you dealt with it or had a little problem of speaking about it to your mom and dad and to other people until you talk to a counselor. How do you tell another child to talk about it and how it would help them?
Well, I think you should never force them to talk. It should be their choice, and you have to go very slowly to them because they're already hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started, the best thing I wanted was just to have someone listen to me. So I think a way that you can approach a kid who is dealing with divorce would be to ask them how they're feeling and if they would like to talk or just sit there and color, because the more that they get to know you and trust you, the more comfortable they'll feel talking to you afterwards.
Yes. One thing we like saying on this show, Honeymoon Mindset with Kids, is when you're dealing with kids, a lot of times a lot of parents are in their head, and you made reference to it, how your mom was soft and caring and open. And one thing we like to say in Honeymoon Mindset is you got to listen with your heart, because adults, as we grow older, as you get older, a lot of times we end up being in our heads too much and analytical.
Mm-hmm.
And you just said it perfectly. You got to go to the kids and you got to listen with your heart.
Yeah.
Not trying to go and solve it or tell them it's okay, but listen and go at the child's pace is what I'm hearing from you, correct?
Yes, exactly.
No. So if a kid's been through a divorce a couple years down the road or a couple years later and they're still hurting from it, what advice would you give to that child?
I would say if they're still hurt from the divorce and they have been through it and it's been a long time, I would say journal a lot. Maybe talk to someone who you love and you trust and just ask them to listen to you, because sometimes just speaking it out is a big relief. So for sure, I have some small exercise in my book. For example, writing 3 things that you love about your parents,
Mm-hmm.
because it allows you to just take a deep breath, get it all out, and just first think about how much you love your parents, how much they're there for you. And then you can always talk to your parents and just tell them how you've been feeling and everything that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even if you're upset or mad, like, they will understand and they will be there for you.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, you've talked about journaling a couple times. You brought it up or mentioned it. Why is journaling so important? And a lot of people, when they think of journaling, or even kids think of journaling, they think of that typical junior high response. Oh, I have a crush on this boy today. Oh, I did this and I wore these clothes. But when you talk about journaling,
Yeah.
what do you mean by journaling and what is it?
Well, what I mean would be to get your pencil, get a book, and write how you feel. Write what you're grateful for. Write what happened, like sad things that made you feel down, good things that made you feel happy, and very not crushes that you can also do, of course, if you really want to, but more about your day-to-day life, because by writing it down, you really relieve all of the emotions and you can get them out and just put it all out. It's like talking to someone, but through, well, a paper. Um,
Right.
and it's much more comforting because you can say everything and not be stressed or anxious. You're open. It's like you're talking to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
another version of you.
And so,
And
go ahead, Caroline.
writing is a very good resource because it's very healthy for your brain, and it just helps you, I guess, relieve your stress and think. You can read what you wrote and you can think how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back and read what you wrote? Like a week or two or a month later or 6 months later, go back to some of the things you wrote?
Yeah, I do. I usually look at my book at my computer and I read what I have wrote. It just helps me see what I have done because it is very nice to look at what you have done and your accomplishments and how hard you've worked.
Have you gone back and looked in your journal? Say you're having a rough day or a tough day and look back at what you went through before to encourage you or to strengthen you or just to see what was there like a couple months ago or a year ago?
Yeah, I definitely have. Not as much as I would like to, because sometimes I forget because I'm so in the moment of being upset. But when I think that I just want to journal a lot, then I read my entries and what I wrote, and it can really brighten up my day again.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wait, I thought you weren't allowed to be upset for 5 minutes a week.
Mhm.
Your mom told us a lot about what goes on in your household. So that's how I know about that. And it's a great
Yeah,
idea. It's a great idea that you guys do that. So,
because you
what were you saying, Caroline?
always need to give yourself some time to just be in the moment and feel sad, because then you can let all your tears out. You can let all your emotions out, and it's always okay to cry. It's a normal thing. It's good to cry, and it's good to be in the sad feeling and the feeling of not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Of
So
course, it's
true.
not the best feeling, but it helps you get up again after.
Yeah. And another thing is the opposite of that is laughter. And one thing I learned from your mom in that training in Miami that we were with is laughter is so good. Even though I didn't like,
Yeah.
I can hear your mom laughing in the background. Very good, very good, yay!
Yeah, the yoga laughter.
Yep, I still do that. It has, you tell your mom, it has grown on me.
He's giving you thumbs up.
And I made her laugh the one time when she did her live with you. When I wrote that, when she was doing her 50 days of live, I saw that instant smile on your mom's face and laughter.
Yeah,
Um,
she's very happy.
your mom is a very happy lady. I agree. Any last comments you want to say to kids about your book?
Um, I'd like to say that it's never your fault, so never tell yourself it's your fault that separation happened, and that I'm here, my book's here to help everyone. Of course, it's not a 1 day journey,
Mm-hmm.
it's not also a 4 year journey, but it's a 1 year journey or half a year journey. It depends how much you're dedicated. But it's here to help you to go through it and to let go of all the grudges you have and all of those anger emotions, and to just be at peace with yourself and with your family.
Yeah, I think what you said there is beautiful. It's like you guys to get your own pace in what you're emotionally capable of handling at the time, because there's a lot of changes going on. And you said earlier,
Yeah.
with moving and not seeing one of your parents all the time, it does take a lot on you, and you got a lot as a child or a teenager for
Mhm.
that matter. So speaking of teenagers, I
Yeah.
know your sister is older and your brother is too. How do they do it? And were you able to help them or encourage them or each other for that matter?
Honestly, they were helping me a lot. Um, I think I helped them, but I'm not sure how, because I always feel that they're my young parents. So my sister helped me a lot in allowing me to speak to her and for her to just be there to listen to me. And she gave me wonderful advice as well. And whenever I was with my dad, she made me feel that I was safe and that everything was okay, because sometimes I felt a bit scared,
Mm-hmm.
like I was entering a new family. Um, so that was very nice. And also with my brother, we don't talk as much as I would like to, but we definitely do talk, and I know he was always there to support me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also very nice.
So if you have siblings, talking to them to help get through the situation and the feelings.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So how are people going to find this book of yours? Is it on Amazon? Is it going to be in Barnes and Noble?
It's gonna be on Amazon.
Okay. And we will put a link in our show too, so they can just click right on that link and go get your book.
Yes,
Does that sound cool?
exactly. Sounds perfect.
Yep. And how much does the book cost? Any?
We still have yet to decide,
Okay. So.
but it will be said in the beginning of January.
Okay.
I'm working with a team, a professional lady, Chloe,
Okay.
to help me because I'm not very good with prices.
Yeah. It sounds like you did an amazing job writing this book. And sounds like there's a lot
Thank
of
you.
tips in there, a lot of tools and activities to help a child or a teenager get through their thoughts and feelings of
Yeah.
divorce. Anything else about this book?
Well, this book is a guide for you feeling better and becoming at peace with yourself. And even though I may not come with the book because that's a bit difficult, I'm always a part of the book, and you can think of me as a book robot if you'd like, or a fairy godmother if you'd like. But I'm come with the book in some way that you can imagine
Okay.
to help you.
So in other words, you put a lot of love and emotion into this book that comes through it.
Yes.
Yes, that's awesome. All right, Caroline. I want to thank you for being on Honeymoon Mindset with Kids podcast. And it'd be great to have you again. Because I also hear you're a great baker, too.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
You're getting there?
Still a little master chef.
We'll have to have a bake-off someday because I love to bake, too.
I am up for it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is Caroline, all the way from Switzerland with her book. What's the name of your book again, Caroline? Go ahead, give a little plug. Go ahead and give a little plug for your book.
It's called When Your Mom and Dad Separate.
And how it affects kids, and how kids. It's to help kids deal with divorce. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to this episode of Honeymoon Mindset with Caroline, all the way from Switzerland. And again, a link to her book will be listed below, and it'll also be on Honeymoon Mindset on Facebook and Instagram, and all our other platforms that we're on now. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm trying to figure out, ladies and gentlemen. We got so many more now. But all right, thank you, everybody. We hope this sparked the passion in you to help your children deal with divorce if that's something that you're going through at this moment. It's not easy. As Caroline said, it can be quite hard, frustrating, full of emotions that go all over the place. And this book will help them go through that. Caroline said it's a guide, it's a tool. And it's something that you got to do on your own pace, their pace, not yours, the child's pace. And as Kimberly and I say on this show a lot, you need to listen to your kids with heart. Listen with your heart. Be there and listen to them and let them talk and let them deal with it in their own way, in their own pace and words. So, thank you for listening to Honeymoon Mindset, and we'll see you next time on Honeymoon Mindset with Kids.